Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. Hope that you are well. Tell you what, it has been an interesting couple of weeks around here, and interesting is a word that you would put in quotes because there's a lot stronger language that you could use to describe what we have seen here in the upstate of South Carolina, but more importantly, in western North Carolina. But we try to get back to some semblance of normalcy, which makes me question why we have our current guest with us. But Doug Allison is here. We're going to talk some men's soccer.
That was a quick blow.
Yeah, well, you know.
It didn't take long.
I figure I better get the first shot in because I know there's going to be multiple ones coming this way. So how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be doing something and having people on campus. School gets back into motion today.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, recording this on Monday morning, late Monday morning. It's been almost 3 weeks since you've played a soccer match.
Yeah, tomorrow when we go to upstate, it will be 3 weeks since we beat Charleston. And our momentum was really good at that point. We just tied at Davidson. We just beat Charleston at their place, and they were in the top 20 in the country when we beat them. And 3 weeks later, we haven't played a game. So it is. It's nice to have the guys back because obviously they had to leave campus as well. They were all over the country. But to get them back over the weekend and see them again and then see them a little bit more rested, which is good. But now we've got to get back into habits again,
right?
And that kind of stuff. So we'll now it's conference time. All of a sudden we missed out on a few games.
So how did the storm and the aftermath, how did it affect you and your staff? How did it affect your players? I mean, it's obviously just thrown everybody way off schedule. But again, I think we consider ourselves extremely blessed compared to what we're seeing up in western North Carolina.
Yeah.
But still, what kind of effect did it have on your staff, and your program?
Well, we'll see tomorrow. But I think the biggest difference between 4 years ago when we had COVID and it's like everyone stopped. Mm-hmm. We just had this little bubble of teams and universities that stopped. Meanwhile, we're watching other schools are still playing and moving on and getting on because they weren't in the way of the storm. But then you see that, you feel sorry for yourself a little bit, and then you go to Asheville or Hendersonville and you go to different western North Carolina and then you see those places and you're like, well, why are we feeling sorry for ourselves
right.
here? We're fortunate to have what we have, and power's back on, internet's back on. I'm getting to talk to you, which is kind of a blessing in disguise. But, you know, that's one of the pitfalls, they say, of life's rich tapestries is being with Dan Scott
that's
after
right.
3 weeks. And you had 3 weeks to prepare for this for me, so I'm curious to see what questions you're going to ask.
Well, you might be disappointed. I don't know.
With you, Dan?
Well, you know, you wouldn't be the first. I promise you that. Trust me. So the upstate game was one that you were supposed to have played. As we're recording this Monday, that's been rescheduled to tomorrow, Tuesday at upstate, right? The Asheville game has been canceled because of the problems Asheville is having. And you were also supposed to have already played a conference game with Wofford, but that's going to be moved to that Asheville date. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Asheville are canceling their non-conference games for the rest of the season. They are just playing conference games. So, and they're getting hosted by UNC Charlotte, I believe. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but you feel for them because they could have had everything canceled. So at least they can get some games in. But that Tuesday that we were supposed to play Asheville was, I believe, when we're going to be moving the Wofford game here, and they are rescheduling their games as well. So luckily, we are able to find a common date that we can put the game in.
Yeah, that's just one of the workarounds that you have to do in an unexpected situation like this. The other thing that has happened is you have two very special dates every year: the Greg Griffin game and of course the Quinn game. And the Greg Griffin game, you were actually on the field ready to go, right?
Yeah, we were just about to do the starting lineups, and we were coming out, and then the lightning came, and 4 or 5 delays later, they had to get home. Todd Duke came over and rightly said that the winds are coming in, 67 miles per hour wind. So I suggest that they go home. And this was a couple of hours after the supposedly kickoff. So they drove home in that wind, and then right after that, the hurricane came through. So we haven't been able to do anything since then. But at least they got home safe. I don't know if we'll be able to reschedule that game because it's a non-conference game, but we definitely want to try and reschedule the Quinn game.
Mm-hmm.
McNeil came back he was actually on vacation, came back that day with Quinn, and they saw that their place in North Carolina that they had a little lake place was devastated. The boat was, I don't know where it was, or I don't know if he even has a boat anymore,
Mm-hmm.
But I talked to them about rescheduling. I talked to the Upstate Alliance of Down syndrome people, and Nia told me that we can redo it. And Down syndrome month is typically October, but we're going to try and see if we can get with Mercer on our last date, our last regular season game, and see if we can reschedule the Quinn game for that date. They were very good about it last year when we played them. And joined in very well. So, and the coach was very good about doing that, and the kids joined in very well. So, I'm hoping I know it's the first week of November, but hopefully we can still do it. It is a pretty special game.
Absolutely, and whether it falls within the framework of that month or not, it's something that if you get the chance to do it, you need to try.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll. Mercer don't know about it yet, but I'll be making a phone call this week.
Breaking news here on Inside Furman Athletics. I love it. Talking men's soccer with Doug Allison. So let's talk about the season to this point before the break. 3-2-2 overall in non-conference. But you had talked about the fact that you were really starting to play well. On your last time out, you beat top 25 College of Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you happy with where your team?
Yeah, we got.
I say is, or should I say was?
Was.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are now. We had 14 freshmen. I don't know where they all are at the moment. So I guess when I see them all again, I'll be learning names again and changing diapers at halftime is what's going on. And we've got 14 freshmen, of which at least 5 or 6 start every game at the moment. And there's some good. Coach Tucker's done a good job with recruiting, and we've combined to get a good team in and a good group in, and they are good, and the leadership of the captains has been good. I mean, our 2 losses were against 2 top 15 teams in Virginia Tech and UNC Charlotte. It was 2 pretty good teams, but it was good to play those games to get ready for the conference. But who knows what's going to happen now, Dan, just with the break, and it's just unusual. And then to see who can recover, and the ability to adjust is supposed to be an important thing for a coach.
Well, I guess it's the old double-edged sword. On one hand, if you had some guys who were banged up or something, they've had some extra time to heal. But if you were playing very, very well and you had that momentum and you had developed kind of a rhythm, now you've got to find a way to recapture or restart that.
Yep, very true. I mean, and the guys felt really good going to Charleston. It was their first loss of the season. They were 7-0, and we beat them 4-2. We'd missed some chances in the couple of games before. We tied 0-0 at Davidson, who were a tough team always, and missed a couple of chances. And then I kept telling our guys, just keep trying. I mean, the chances are coming, which is a good sign. And at some point we'll put them in. And then all of a sudden we got 4 goals in 15 minutes, and I actually found like I knew what I was doing.
Yes.
We're saying, but
brilliant coaching strategy, right?
But they scored them well. Christian Krause scored a great goal. Wilfer Bustamante, who's a freshman, scored 2 goals and was the player of the week in the conference that week. And then we felt really good coming back, and then can't wait for that next game. And then there hasn't been one, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. And then we'll see what happens because we go to Greensboro on Saturday,
right,
who's always a tough game. They just tied Mercer 1-1. This past weekend, and they just beat Virginia the game before that up at Virginia. So they're very good this year.
Visiting with Doug Allison, talking men's soccer here on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. You lost quite a bit of your starting 11 from last year, but you do have some talented players coming back. You talked about your freshmen, but Christian Krause, who you mentioned, was an all-SoCon forward, all-SoCon defender, Slade Starnes. All-SoCon freshman from a year ago, Caleb Johnson and Aaron Salinas. So you've got some I guess some veteran talent to mix in with all these kids.
Yep. Yeah, I guess in the South they say Salinas, but it's Salinas to me. And being from England, that's how we pronounce things. But
Well, I had a 50-50 shot.
yeah, I know. You got the other ones right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good there. But the Slade's been back. I mean, he actually was injured at the beginning of the year, come back. He's what captain. Christian Krause is a captain, our leading scorer. And Ivan Ajakwa, who's from England, is a senior captain as well. Those three have done a really good job taking on the mantle of being captains of this team, particularly losing 14 guys graduating last year because it was a double class, like COVID class and that. So we had 14 guys graduate, and that's a big hole to fill, lots of holes. But the most important thing last spring was the leadership, and the team voted for those three guys, and you never know how they take the captaincy, and it's not for everyone, but they've done a really, really good job, particularly with so many young guys. And so that was important. That leadership's important. And the atmosphere inside the camp in preseason was really good. During the games, it's been really good. We've shuffled a few things around after a couple of injuries, and guys are playing in a couple of positions they weren't thinking they were going to play, particularly Ivan, who's taken on the left side of defense. And he was a midfielder in the last 3 years, and he's done very, very well. And so you mix in that group of freshmen that are fresh-faced. They don't really know who they're playing. They're on campus and enjoying college life. And all of a sudden you've got a group of guys that are very enthusiastic about playing. And the atmosphere around the group has been really, really good.
30th year as Furman head coach. All-time winningest. That's what your bio says. So if it's not, blame Jordan Caskey. All-time winningest coach in the Southern Conference. So you've been through it all. But does having a team with 14 freshmen on it, does it add to the gray hair? Does it invigorate you in any way? Is it a combination
of
both?
Is that a personal jab there, Dan? No, that's fine.
No, it's not a personal jab because I know what just having two daughters did for me. I went gray in my 30s. So
yeah, it's well, at least I'm not losing it all yet. You know, is it every other generation you lose your hair?
I have
my
no
dad
idea.
was bald. I mean, he had sideburns from Scotland. He looked like Braveheart, you know. but then I'm hoping I keep this. But whatever color it is, yeah, it's you don't know what you're going to have when they come in. I knew they were talented, and then it's just where do they really play? Because you haven't had them, you haven't coached them yet. And in preseason, you get them, and you think, well, this guy's good here, but could he play there? And we're figuring different positions out, and we kind of got a couple of them right in that Charleston game, particularly with Welfer, who is a natural goal scorer, and you know. Christian Krause got a goal, Wilford got two, and Wamu got one, who's a junior. And so all three of our forwards scored, which you really want to happen because that keeps them happy, that keeps them confident. But, yeah, you get gray hairs no matter what, being college sports. You get gray hairs. I can imagine with football, they had gray hairs to the fourth quarter this past weekend. But what a fourth quarter that was for football.
It was I guess the best way to describe it is insane. Is what that was. Yeah. How has, with what we've seen going on, I've been trying to ask all of our coaches this, what we've seen going on primarily at the Power 4, Power 5 level schools with transfer portal, NIL, all of that stuff. Has there been any kind of trickle-down effect? What kind of effect has all of that had on your program?
Not much at the moment, but there is a trickle-down effect. It's starting. We've had kids this year or parents or club coaches call and say, what kind of NIL money do you have to give to someone?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm still raising money for our budget.
Right.
I'm not raising money for that kid. If that's what they're after, they're after the wrong program here.
Right.
Particularly with our program. Ours is all about culture, about staying 3-4 years, graduating. If you're not going to go pro, you can graduate, and you graduate from here into an alumni base that's unbelievable here. And you get protected by that alumni base and looked after by that alumni base with our soccer program. And that's what I'm most proud of, Dan. And you say 30 years, to have that 30 years of guys out there all over the world, that no matter where our guys go, if it's an internship or a job application or a question about a career, our guys come back to watch our guys. They come back for alumni game. And what I really like about it, every time our guy comes back, I ask him to talk to the team. I tell him, you tell them about your journey since you were in that locker room as well. What made you do what you do? What made you do what you do afterwards, as far as being a parent, a husband, someone that's in the professional world. What made you successful? And from here, how did this help? And what have you done? What have you done wrong? What have you done right? And they come and they talk to the team. And the freshmen don't really understand it, but as they become juniors and seniors, they're really clinging on every word of these guys to say, yeah, maybe I need to talk to that guy. Maybe I need a number. And we talked about initiative within our team, not just on the soccer field, but in life, about having initiative when they leave here. If they don't have initiative when they leave here, I've failed them. And they go on and they pursue whatever their arena they want to pursue. And our alumni have been so fantastic about helping out, not just financially, but advice-wise, time-wise, hosting-wise. Rob Victor hosted our team in preseason over at his house, him and Carly, and had everyone in the house for a meal. And Rob I've known since he was a camper, you know, and just guys like that have come. But guys have kept in touch. The Graham Seagraves is down here all the time. He's kept in touch. 4 or 5 of our guys during the break went to see him and stayed at his house for a day or two, and he obviously fed them. And so alumni are stepping in everywhere. It really is amazing. So you think about the trickle-down effect of NIL, the transfer portal. It's a Wild West. There's kids have the power right now to do whatever they want to do. And, I mean, I'm watching football on Saturday, and every time I'm watching a game, it's like, oh, this kid transferred from here to here. This kid transferred from – he spent 2 years at this place. Now he's here. Now he's a 5th year here. And it is troubling to me because I still want to talk to recruits about education, you know, and the quality of education at Furman and the quality of the culture at Furman and the culture in our soccer program about coming here to experience that and graduate and then move on and then become an alumni to the younger guys and help them. And a lot of kids now, I mean, it's starting to trickle in. That's the conversations that if a kid or a parent or a club coach starts talking about NIL money straight away, that phone call won't last very long.
Right. Well, one of the things I love about this level, and I know some of that other stuff is infiltrating, but for your program, for instance, you're a program that I believe deals with what I would call perspective. In other words, yeah, you're going to try to go out and you're going to put the best team you can on the field and try to win every game, but all of those other things you talked about, the education, the network, the alumni coming back and doing what they do, the fact that you take your team on mission trips every so often and do all those sort of things. It's really, to me, what college athletics was designed to be, and at its best is still that.
I think so, but it's getting less, and it bothers me as much as it bothers you, Dan.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. And being serious about it, that's the trouble I have when I go home. I'm like, God, I love being with these kids. I love coaching these kids. But the student athletes that are coming into a lot of different programs right now, they're just, it's changed a little bit. And do we want to keep up with that change? Or are we trying to stay up with NIL? Are we trying to stay up with transfer portal and all that stuff? And now it's the matter of conferences choosing as far as the roster caps and then schools deciding on how much money they're going to support a program with. And it's like a lot of these conferences are going to really take off at some point. And even in our sport, it's going to take off. It's going to change. So how do we keep up? I mean, that's going to be up to the AD and the president, and I hope we can keep up as much as we can. But again, I'm just really proud of what our kids get here in education at Furman and what they do with it. I mean, Callum last year, I mean, he's in medical school now. Christian Newman's in medical school, going for medical school. Dennison Jones came back to talk to our team on Friday. He just got back from Guatemala for 7 weeks learning Spanish and going into the Army after the ROTC program here, which was excellent for him. And now he's going to fly Chinooks, you know, and or learn to fly them in Alabama for 2 years and hopefully do it the right way. But awesome young men that are going out and they're leading in the community. And that's what I continually want to put out from this program.
one more little thought, and then we'll move on as we start getting into wrap-up mode. But I was watching, I think it was the Clemson-Stanford game when everything else was off. And, Dabo Swinney has been, some call it stubborn, some call it, whatever terminology you want to use, about the way he's running his program. And the graphic came up that Clemson was one of 4 football programs this year who did not take a transfer student. And the trivia question was, who were the other 3?
Wow.
Army, Navy, Air Force.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And being a South Carolina guy, I mean, obviously, talking about Clemson here, that's kind of, it gets me going a little bit here. But
I
but I respect what Dabo Swinney's doing there. I mean, that coach, and I will say that the culture he's created for his kids is what people aspire to as well. So, I mean, got to give him credit for that. There's no question. And not taking transfer kids. Here's the thing with what is the mission of that team? I mean, what is the mission of their alumni? Will they get on them if they don't win? Will they get on them if they do win? Doing it the right way? And that's going to be the dilemma for every coach in college from now on about what is it? I mean, if you want to try and do things the right way, do you do that? Or do you try and keep that culture and then possibly lose some games? But like you say, put out the best players you can, the best student athletes you can, because in the end, the university is about education, isn't it?
And it's not only about developing athletes; it's more about developing strong men, strong women.
Absolutely.
For life after sports.
Absolutely, being good parents.
Yeah.
I mean, learning how to survive, learn with the initiative, being a good spouse. But that's important. But there's a lot of kids are getting wrapped up in this NIL, this money. What can they do for me? And that troubles me because, there's a. I mean, I asked one of my assistants, Charlie Arndt, was one of my teammates in South Carolina, and he's been my volunteer for a long time. And we were flipping around, we were watching football together on Saturday, and he said, "Look at this SMU team. They're doing pretty well this year." And I'm like, "Weren't they the team that had the death penalty at some point?" I said, "What was that for?" He said that was for giving money to kids.
Right. Yes.
I'm like, well, I guess they had some foresight at that point all those years ago.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think it was last year, year before on College Game Day, where they always had the signs.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they were, SMU was playing. But anyway, there was a sign that said, SMU, we did NIL before NIL was cool.
That's exactly
so,
right, yeah.
So, anyway, visiting with Doug Allison, talking about the landscape of college athletics. Let's reel it back in. And talk about what's coming up this week. How much work have you been able to get in since you've got the kids back on campus to prepare for Tuesday's game at USC Upstate?
We've had 3 sessions.
Okay.
So that's what we've been allowed.
By the way, everybody else practices. Soccer, you train.
We train, yeah.
I asked Andrew about that, and he said he would defer to you on why you call it training as opposed to practice. Yes.
Yeah. And why do we call certain drills in there possession? That's a bit weird.
Yes, it is.
Especially a man of faith. I mean, I don't know why they call it possession because, you hope that it's not too bad.
So, but 3 training sessions.
3 training sessions. Now, you're going to start hitting me with all this other stuff from, some shows that are on TV here.
No. I'm going to play it straight from here on out. How much work have you been able to get done in your training sessions?
3 training sessions, Dan, and a couple of them pretty hard because I wanted to get their fitness back and their habits back.
Right.
And that was the most important thing. And just the first session we didn't have practice. We didn't have everyone there because they couldn't get back in time. Mm-hmm. But with Tony did a good job with kind of getting the dining hall open and the field guys, our maintenance guys are unbelievable. I mean, getting the fields ready and the pitch sorted out and then the training field and. They've been amazing because while everyone else was kind of off campus, they still had to manage the fields.
Right.
And David and his crew and all those guys have just really been fantastic. But now we'll see. We couldn't train yesterday because we have to have an off day, and then we'll do a little bit of prep work, film work today for Upstate, and then we go into Greensboro this weekend.
So I was going to ask, the way everything has played out. Are you fortunate to have the Upstate game now before you play Greensboro to open SoCon play on Saturday?
I think so. I'm hoping that's how it works. I mean, we can iron out some stuff and try and get back in habits. And freshmen are going to make mistakes again, but they always do. But they make some great plays too. You know, that's what's exciting about. What I love and still love about college sports is who can take advantage of mistakes.
Right.
Because they're not supposed to be pros, but who knows what's in college these days?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard to keep talking about that.
There's a caveat to that now.
Yeah. My beliefs are they're amateurs that are young kids that are trying to learn to be pros, you know. But I think that game hopefully will give us a little bit. It's an away game as well before we go away to Greensboro, so it's another away trip. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this week.
Well, you can just look at the other football here on campus and see what's going on with a freshman quarterback there and how, you know.
That fourth quarter, he turned it up a notch, didn't he?
Yes, he did. All right, so the Upstate game is on the road, and UNCG is on the road as well, which puts you back here when?
Well, we then go to Presbyterian the following Tuesday.
So you'll have another non-conference game.
And then we get back into conference play, and then I believe VMI's here for senior night, and then Wofford will come here.
Okay.
And then I'm hoping to rearrange that Quinn game for Mercer being our last game of the year. So I'll be making some phone calls.
I hope you can, and be sure to let us know, and maybe we can work out having you back ahead of the Quinn game and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, if we can do that and get Quinn back in here, because it's been 8-9 years now that we've been doing this, and we had a soccer extravaganza in the spring where the whole community of Furman got involved. Professors, FCA, all the sports teams, particularly women's volleyball, they were hilarious, and all the coaches coming out, which was great to see. The administration, you know, to see a lot of those guys out on the soccer pitch playing and raising money for special needs kids. But Quinn came back for that game as well, and we actually, with the help of Nancy Cooper as well, raised some good money for Down syndrome, and the whole of the university got involved, every aspect. But seeing the professors play against some of the soccer guys and some of the golf team and some of the tennis team, and it really was a fantastic day.
Well, I hope you can get that rescheduled, and if you do, we'll get you back in here to talk about it again. It is always good to get to catch up with you, my friend.
Thank you, Dan. You too. It's a pleasure.
That is Doug Allison. This has been Inside Furman Athletics for this week. We'll be back again next week with another edition. Until then, for Doug and all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott. As always, saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.